Hey there, baseball fans. Back with another edition of the Prep Baseball of North Carolina podcast. I'm Brandon Hall. With us today, Zach Borowski, and then a new face. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. You get to know him, Kyle Cadlow. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing well today, Brandon. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Tell us a little bit about your background just in terms of baseball and scouting and coaching and things of that sort.
Yeah, so originally from Jacksonville, Florida. Played and graduated at North Greenville University. And most recently, I've been an assistant coach at UNC Asheville the past 3 seasons, and had a small stint at Florida Southern before that.
We're excited to have you on board. You're with us this fall. Did a good job with that. Now getting a chance to kind of be around some of the things that we're doing here in the state, getting to know the high school baseball. And I think for us, as good as the West has been, TC Roberson and East Rutherford and, the teams out of Shelby and even further into the mountains, those teams have been good, but they're hard to get to sometimes. So having a guy in that area I know is exciting for us because we have more and more coverage of what's going on out there.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we got a big week ahead. Some upcoming events. We're going to continue our preseason all states with the final 2 of the 4 coming off a huge weekend where we had 2 successes in Greenville and in Maiden. And we're heading to Kernersville, one of our favorite stops, Kernersville Diamond Extreme, and we'll see the preseason All-State Central. Zach, we've been in this building for a while. It's one of the nicer facilities we go to, and you can see why players flock to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a open concept, kind of like we were in Greenville. Can hit, pitch, everything. You can run full 30 without really having to worry too much. It's just a great facility. It's got heat, so when it gets cold, it's fun. And they've opened their doors to us, and we've been there a lot of late nights, 11:30 some nights. And, there's everybody around the facility has been wonderful to us.
It's a unique environment in this area. I know in other areas and other territories, you have these places where they're big boxes, they're open. You can do a lot of different things. I think for a long time in North Carolina, you were hoping for just a lane where you had 120 feet. And you could kind of, do some ground ball stuff. And then, Diamond Extreme kind of changed the game. And then you see more and more facilities like this. But Paul Brannon, their owner, obviously has a track record of developing talented athletes, and good for us to be in there. We're going to be in there. We'll see approximately 90 players. That's the plan right now. And let's start diving into these guys. Zach, some of the guys that I think have a chance to potentially push for senior future games, junior future games, super sophomore games. We're going to find some guys that are going to go on those lists when we're at this event.
Yeah, to me, he's been the most talented, top to bottom, give or take on a high-end guy here or there. But this seems to be the one where everybody flocks. It's kind of right before the season. You kind of get to see everybody at their best, kind of get ready to make their throwing in the scrimmages next week. So it's kind of like their last bullpen before scrimmages. It's a wonderful event. Usually you get some commits that show up. You get some guys that get committed right after. So.
Yeah, so we've got several commits there. Cole Bowman's scheduled to be there. He's also scheduled to be our pro case. Eli Cash going to Wilmington. Delgado, catcher from the Wake County area, going to Virginia Commonwealth. Continue scrolling. We have a couple more in here. But it's a highlight position for some younger players as well. I know for me, we're already starting to turn our eyes to what's going to happen late July, early August with the future games. Charlie Beck's a player that was at the future games last year, was kind of a late riser in the class. We saw him at a workout. We knew of him playing Legion ball. I have a history a little bit with his grandfather. I've known him for a long time, but Charlie was a guy that kind of jumped on the scene at the future games, got a lot of traction there just because of the way he played, and left-handed bats, got a chance to play at a little bit higher level. So we're looking for that next round of guy in this 28 class. And who are some of these guys that are looking through the roster that you think could make that jump from the 28 class?
28 class, let me take a quick gander. I know one in town is Parker Brendel. He's a local kid. So I think he's got a chance to make a big jump. He's kind of one of the guys from Fuquay area. So I'm going to give him a little shout out. To me in that class, Really,
Aiden Kirk's a name that pitched really well at our top
I'm
prospect.
gonna go Brody Michelle.
Yep.
Brody started finding barrels. Another Wake County kid. Has started every time he's been. The exit velo's jumped, and the barrel feel has been really good. So I'm gonna take a little stab at old Brody Michelle as another guy that's gonna take another jump while we're here.
And it's always good to kind of turn and be forward facing, look towards the future, what's going to happen. But there's some more immediate recruiting things that are going to be happening here soon. And as we look, we've got guys in that 27 class that I think have a chance to continue to kind of climb the ranks. They're big names. They're names we've been following for a while. Who are some of those names that kind of jumped out to you in that class as we're getting ready to see the 27s?
Jake Ciampi, he was here last year and put on probably the best bullpen of anybody there. Breaking ball was plus and touched 88 with the fastball. I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy again. Being out west, bro, sorry, that's a long travel. So you keep coming to this Kernersville event, and I'll keep hyping you up. As long as you come here, I got you. I'll be your hype man. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this dude. He was actually fun to talk to. Clean delivery with some arm speed, broad shoulder guy. So I'm hoping to see this spin to win here pretty soon.
Yeah, Weddington High School right in my backyard, so I've had a chance to see him a little bit. Weddington had, deep pitching staff. Jake was, a part of that run they made last year. And they've developed some power arms. And, the thing I like is there's some laxity in that arm as he's, big arm swing in the back. It's over the top, but it's freedom there. It's good direction. There's some leg drive. As he continues to get stronger in the lower half, you're going to continue to see velocity tick up. Last year at this event, I know you talked about it, seeing what his numbers did, 85, 88. And again, remember this is early February, average movement metrics, but the breaking ball spinning up to 2,800 gave him a chance pretty quickly in terms of jumping on the board and being a follow for us. And, quite honestly, years past that Future Games deal, he would have been in the mix. And would have been down there with us. What's happened with the Future Games a little bit here is you start getting, more and more of the guys that would have been recruited to it or off the board 2 and 3 years ago. And Kyle, you probably ran into this a little bit, that recruiting segment. How did it change for you guys as we were going through it? And all of a sudden, maybe at some of the schools you were at, you weren't recruiting 8th graders and 9th graders, but those guys being recruited had an effect on how you went about your business as those guys got to be juniors.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely something. The landscape of recruiting now has kind of been completely flipped on its head with, the portal, JUCO guys, and just kind of sorting through. The biggest thing was just identifying kind of who we were looking for and kind of what we wanted our identity to be, and then go after those guys. So being able to see these guys kind of at their freshman and sophomore year, whether it's not in person, but, you can able to see, their profiles online and numbers and videos and stuff, kind of gives you a good head start on, hey, we need to get out and see this guy. So
it's always a puzzle for those guys trying to figure out where they land. And what's going on with these classes now is you don't really know where the land is. And we talk about it when we're going our grading stuff and going through rankings and trying to line guys up. Well, the grading scale we use is something similar to what I used when I was at Charlotte and Wilmington. And the grades we're putting on guys don't necessarily match up now. I'm putting on a grade on a guy saying, hey, this is a guy that would have been, a solid high major type player. That's what this grade means. And then the next tier down is that really solid mid-major guy. And there's some gapping in between. Don't know which way they're going to go. But that mid-major guy now, that grade can slide those guys further down because of the number of guys that are still in school. So, watching what Jake does, seeing how the recruiting process kind of continues to transform for guys that have a lot of talent like himself will be an interesting process. The roster overall at the Central, this is one of our stronger rosters. The Greenville, we're going to get into the preseason All-State East and West, but the Greenville roster, that may have been the best roster we've ever seen at one of these events. But I'm interested, we've got Alex Caldwell, Witten Butler, Giovanni Bacino. We talked about Ciampi, Brandon Forrest, Ethan Gilchrist. I keep going down Brady Holmes. We talked about Kirk.
30 can hit.
Lincoln Lawson. We mentioned Lincoln in our preview that we posted. Brandon Lohr is a big physical guy. Leo Lipinski, I know you know Lipinski fairly well, Zach. Baron McConnell was with us at super sophomore games. I think we have 3 or 4 super sophomore games guys and 3 or 4 junior future games guys from last year. So getting a chance to kind of track and follow how these guys continue to develop, it's going to be a long day. We're running through 90 players. We're bringing guys in 2 different sections. So not all 90 will be in the building together. But it's going to be a great start to a weekend. And the weekend then moves into, we get a chance to sleep. We should be out of the building at a decent hour. Get a chance to sleep when we're back in the building early. And we go into our pro case. And I'm gonna share my screen here if I can find it, and just go through the roster a little bit with what we're trying to do with the pro case. And Zach, obviously you've been around and watched what we've done with this. Give me a little lay of the land in terms of what the pro case has done for pro scouts and for the players themselves.
You always have a hard time seeing guys. So for us, it gave us a chance to get a lot of guys in one place. It gives us a chance to go see that, there's a tier in scouting and pro scouting. There's some guys that have pro scout interest, and there's some guys that are legit pro prospects. They're 2 different things. So for us, it gives us a chance to see who might have turned the corner, who did a lot over the off season we might not have seen. We get them all there. The other thing is it gives us a chance for East Coast Pro. So you get a lot of 27s in there. It gives us a chance to see some 27s we might not have heard of. Gives us a chance to get some invites out to East Coast Pro guys. It is a great event. It ranges. There's been national scouts at this, depending on who's there. It is a very diverse, and you will not know who's watching you. You will not know if it's a decision maker or a guy that has to call in a decision maker. There are a lot of different pro scouts, and they all look the same, and they're all going to wear khaki pants. But when you get to that event, you just don't know. So, for this, man, them guys bring their A game every time for our guys. We've set records every year. Yep. I don't know what record we'll set this year, but it'll be something.
Yeah, and this year will be a little different too, because this is the first time we've run it while the Division I baseball season has been going. So the high school season in North Carolina typically we're about a week behind what we are typically, just the way the calendar fell. So we were able to move our events back, which means moving the pro case back, but the Division I calendar did not move, or they gave themselves an extra week. And with that, all these area scouts are going to be on the road. Now, there may be rain on Sunday, so we may get a bunch of guys filtering in there because they can't go anywhere else. But the response to the roster we've put together has been really good. There are times when you put together the roster and, pro guys are going, hey, I'm going to see him. I'll be tracking. I'm following. I'm going to call you on Monday. We're going to go through this, and we can do all that with them. They're going to watch the video, and get all the stats. But with the roster we put together, I've had, 8 to 12 kind of reach out and go, hey, man, I'm trying to get there. The org may want me to go this, or this, but I am trying to get there because I can knock out a bunch of dudes. And, Gunnar Alm is a name that kind of popped in the summer. We actually had him going to the Super 60 2 weeks ago in Chicago, and the snow hit and he couldn't get out. We have Chase Kiker, who was an All-American, went to Miami with the senior class and competed in the Prep Baseball American game, was at the Super 60 as a dual, both pitching and hitting. Jackson Matthews right there. Jackson was at the Super 60. We have some video here rolling. I think you can see that. I'll check. Yep. And Jackson performed really, really well there. The thing with Jackson is he has a tool that's kind of, hard to find. When you look at the way he controls the barrel, at the hand strength he has, at the bat speed he has, there's a lot to like, just because some of that stuff's not teachable. Other aspects, trying to figure out what the barrel feel is going to be as he continues to climb levels. That's why scouts are making the millions and millions and millions of dollars those guys are making, right, Zach?
Yeah, it's a lot of travel mileage.
So it's an event that we enjoy. We get to slow down a little bit in that event because it is smaller. We get a chance to kind of move these guys through it at a normal pace. But the other part is these guys kind of have a pretty good feel of what to do in the showcase. They've already, with the exception of one player, I think everybody else is committed. And Brandon Bush, I know has had chances to commit if he'd wanted to. I think he's trying to let the process play out with NIL and roster spots and portal transfers, and he wants to know what he's getting into. And he's got a good plan. So I'm going to give you a pick to click because I was somewhere last night. I was at Charlotte Catholic. They had a kind of an analytics day with us, invited out a bunch of pro scouts. This man I'm getting ready to highlight right here, John Hucko. We've got John. Let's go to his profile. I'm going to share his profile. He's an Auburn commit. We got him at 7, and we got him at 170 nationally, and that is light. That is really light after yesterday. He ran a 6.46 for us yesterday. He's up to 92 on the bump, and I don't think he's a pitcher first. I think he could be. I think he's a dual if he goes to Auburn. He may be a dual as a draft pick, but the bat was really loud. There's hand strength, there's barrel control that's quick, it's direct, the ball jumped. He's going to be one that's really, really interesting. Anybody else that jumps off the page when I show that roster to you guys in terms of what's going to happen in the pro case, and guys you're excited to kind of see what the metrics are?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in I kind of talked about this last night. I think he just got on the roster, Mozingo, the East Carolina kid. The man can flat out fly. Dude's probably one of the best high school defenders I've seen. It's just the barrel. We talk about it. The man has great barrel feel. Can it take that jump to the next level? He has played for one of the best high school coaches I've ever been around, Sam Guy. Shout out, Sam. You're one of the best in the business. He has a chance to stay at shortstop, which when we talk about high school kids, there ain't many that can stay at short. It's just you all think you're shortstops, and then you get to the big leagues and the minors and stuff, and then you see what a real shortstop is. Bro, you use a real shortstop. You got a chance to play short for a really long time. Your barrel feel is unmatched. Your bat to ball skills, I saw you play. You took 3 different swings, a slash, a hit and run, hit a double off the fence. So I'm curious to see what the bat does. For me, I'm going to look at some numbers for him. I want to see what that exit velo is getting up to. I know he can find the barrel. I just want to see where the strength is and where we are with that right now.
I'm looking through right now. I got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We got 16 guys on the pro case roster that were at future games with us during going into their junior year. So, we've been, obviously there's a lot of really good players in the state. It doesn't mean we were right. It doesn't mean we were wrong, but we've been on some of these guys from the time they were freshmen on. So kind of exciting to kind of get to this last showcase opportunity for them. Let them have some fun. Try to keep it relaxed, try and let them interact with the pro scouts who are there, give the pro scouts a little bit more than just the analytics and the data. They get a chance to see these are real human beings. Try to help these guys relax as they're going through the workout, and then they can cut it loose this spring. I was never a draft prospect, and so going through a spring season when guys are coming to see me like that, I went through it as a senior in high school, still uncommitted, so I had a little bit of the college coaches coming out, and there's a little bit of pressure, but I was going to land somewhere. These guys that have pro aspirations and trying to figure out, just to manage their day to day, and so they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old and, going through this process, this is one last run for us. So I'm kind of excited about that day. But we will go. So our weekend, we have a scout day on Friday. Zach, you and I'll be there. And then Saturday we have Kernersville and the preseason All-State Central. Sunday, we wake up early. We got the pro case. We finished the pro case and immediately start heading down the road. And we're going to get to the preseason All-State South. We have not done this in the past where we've tried to run 2 events in one day. But obviously with the calendar, it maps out a little bit better when we do it this way, just because guys are going to be closer to being full go the closer we get to that quote-unquote tryout day for high school and things of that sort. So that's why we've done it. We've got a great facility in Mooresville at Arena Lake Norman. It's our second year there. Absolutely loved being there last year. It's a program that's developing. They've got more and more athletes rolling through there. And, really looking forward to a good day. And I'm going to share the roster here. We can start kind of going through some of the names. But the space is going to allow us to do anything. We'll be able to take ground balls. We'll be able to allow the catch throw full pop times. They have a running lane where we can go and have guys run their 30s there. So we'll go through the roster right here. And just looking through this, Kyle, let's start with you. Anybody that kind of jumps out to you that you look at and go, yeah, that's a guy. We need to kind of talk about him.
Yeah. So one guy, he stood out, saw him earlier this fall in Asheboro, is Morgan Jones. Kind of first impression, first look, strong kid. Like he passes the eye test. He's built very well. And just, watching him, take BP, just backspin line drives all over the field. And to me, one of the more impressive outfield arms I've seen. And kind of combines all that in a super athletic package to where you could kind of plug him and play him a little bit around the outfield. But to me, that's a guy going to Gaston College, I believe.
Yep.
It'd be really, really interesting to see how he develops in his 2 years there. I know they produce a lot of good players, and just to see how he grows.
And he's an interesting guy. I'm going to point this out. You look, he was 24, 25. Now we'll have notes on him as in the year of 2026. And then he's going to go head into Gaston. Gaston does a really good job of being able to track their players with their video systems and their developmental system that's in there. So you're a pro scout, Zach. Morgan Jones turns into a pro prospect in the year, 2028, 2029. You now, probably not a guy you're tracking right now, but he jumps on the map. You now have the ability to go back and look at him 2024, 25, 26, at Gaston 27, 28, his 4-year school in 29. You have all of this history. What does that mean to the scouting community when they have just a little bit of pieces of information over the course of that timeline?
You guys aren't going to believe how many videos we look at. I won't throw out the guy's name, but we ended up pulling out a guy's video from 2 summers ago, just watching his swing in summer league because he had a great summer and didn't quite have a great spring season. And we were trying to figure out why. Like, we pulled up a video and we're like, hey, I wonder if he can ever get back to this. Lo and behold, he got close, ended up being a 5th rounder, 6th rounder, somewhere in that range. It matters a lot to us, especially for guys. Some guys, when we get them and they end up getting an arm injury or something, you kind of go back to some of their high school videos or some of their first year, just kind of watching them throw and see if you can pinpoint what's causing some stress and just what he used to do that didn't hurt and now what's causing a little bit of the flare up. So we use it a lot in the scouting community, more than actually you'd probably think.
I think it's huge. I think that ability, because when we talked about when I was doing the recruiting, Kyle, when you were doing the recruiting, we may not have been landing 8th and 9th graders, but we knew who they were because teams we were playing were landing those guys. So we're tracking some of those teams. We're making it a point of going to 15U tournaments and 14U tournaments when we had some downtime, just so we can go and start getting the lay of the land. Who are the guys going to be? How are these guys going to lay out? What's the way that's going to work for us tracking them? And so we have history on those guys. We know the coaches they've been with have had history. Now you really don't get that because a lot of schools aren't recruiting until that junior year, and so then they're relying on other entities to get them the history. And we talk about it from our standpoint. What was he? What is he? What will he be? And that development process. And you can talk about it a little bit, Kyle. The guys you guys had come in, you guys had some dudes come in there through Asheville the last couple of years. It's not necessarily how many stars they have or even what their prep baseball ranking is in high school. The development process is so big from 18 to 23. You can have an effect on players as they get better.
Yeah, absolutely. One guy is a perfect example that we had, Clay Edmondson. He came in out of Guilford Tech. I think he was primary outfielder there, submarine slot on the mound. And he comes in and he really starts to shine on the mound. And, he missed all of the 2024 season with an elbow injury. And he came back in 2025 and just, he was unhittable. He was Big South pitcher of the year, was running it up to 93, 94 from submarine slot and ended up getting picked in the 14th round of last year's draft by the Padres. So, you find there's so much talent everywhere. It goes unlooked sometimes. And you just got to keep looking for these guys.
Well, the developmental process is big. I mean, you guys did a great job with him. And obviously there was mold there to kind of shape and form and do what you want to do with. We talk about in the recruiting process from a college standpoint. There were guys that we would recruit that maybe other guys weren't on. There were guys we wouldn't recruit that maybe everybody else was on, because there wasn't a fit, and trying to bring those guys in on visits and You hear every now and then go, man, the visit didn't go well. The visit didn't go. That's perfectly fine. If the visit didn't go well, it's probably because both of them don't fit together. Yeah. From a pro standpoint, Zach, the pro guys are getting into houses. They're trying to get to know these guys. The East Coast pro, they're in the dugout with him. At the pro event and the border battle in the fall, they're in the dugout with them. There's more to the purpose of evaluation than just, what is his spin rate? What is his fastball? Does he miss bats? Can he hit the ball out of the ballpark? Can he run a 60? It's get to a certain point, everybody on the team can do that stuff. So now what is it that allows those guys to make that next jump?
Yeah, I mean, you actually get it like a lot. Like, it's kind of funny because they all think like we're kind of friends at points of time because you're so close to them, and all of a sudden they tell you a story or they say something. And you're like, oh, hello. Like, man, I didn't know that was what we were getting into. A lot of visits are really learning about the person. When you're at practice, 95, 98% of you guys, great kids. And then you go away sometimes and it's like, oh, I want to be funny. I want to be the funny guy. I want to do something. And we're like, you're an investment to a lot of people when you become a pro prospect. They're spending a lot of money and a lot of resources. And sometimes when you're the funny guy or, the team clown, that can hurt you a little bit. Sometimes you're just good enough and you can get away with it. But like that's the next level. Like when you start being around people and they get comfortable, that's where you learn a lot of people. We're sitting in the stands. Half the time I'm asking a parent or some random person about you, and they're telling me a story from when you were 12, or I might ask one of your students, and they're telling me a story from Saturday night about you, and you're like, oh, that's a whole different life that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah. So while we were talking, we had a special guest drop in on us, Coach Reimer. Aaron Reimer's back with us for the second week in a row. You had a little business to take care of as we got started. We're all in different parts of the state, and one of the neat things about having this group of guys together is we've got Western North Carolina, we've got the Charlotte area, we've got the Triangle area, and we've got the beach. So between the four of us, we've kind of got it covered here. Aaron, first of all, before we jump into going back and looking at some of the preseason All-State, how was the signing day?
Great. Shout out to UNC Asheville and Tate Nelson. It was quick, but he couldn't sign early because his dad was out of town. So they did the whole thing today, and it went well.
Yeah, Tate's a guy that we saw.
Came to Cary.
Yeah, he came to Cary last year. I'm struggling to get my camera to go where I want it to go to work. So he came to Cary last year, and the arm speed had picked up, the physicality had picked up. It was loose, it was athletic, and then he took another jump with what you guys were doing in the spring. What, real quick, because other athletes can learn from this. But Aaron, what was kind of the big jump for him? Was it development on the field? Was it weight room, nutrition, sleep, or just just natural maturation?
Consistency is like the baseline. If you're not consistent, and he was very consistent, then the other stuff probably doesn't matter. But he's starting to grow into his body. Needs to eat and eat and eat. Works his tail off, but just the diet was the big thing. He's starting to put on some pounds, and the uptick's coming.
There you go. Well, we're going to move forward into the preseason All-State. We're going to start the ones we've seen now, and we're going to start with the East. And Aaron, you were with us. Zach, you were there. This is 7 years. That top to bottom, from the first minute of the day to the last minute we walked out, that may have been the most talented roster we've seen. Just overall impressions on the talent. And Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it really – every other year it's been like, you get a lot of Greenville and they're just skill. And now all these dudes showed up with some bodies on them, and they weren't little. And then all of a sudden it wasn't like it was only 85 to 87 days. Like it was 88 to 90. Then we get to the BP and, we got 15 dudes hitting over 95, 20 dudes hitting over 95. And we got some little dude coming out running. I think he set the record. I'm not sure on it, but bro comes out scooting.
Jason Michelle.
Then we get some catchers out here just throwing humdingers all around the yard, and we're like, God dang, like this is just a great event.
This is maybe the first time where we left an event. I was able to watch a majority of it. We didn't have a whole lot of things going wrong. I was able to bounce around. I went back. I started going through the event, and I've had to go through it 2 or 3 times because there were so many guys that the highlights didn't stick for me. the 3 or 4 guys that really stood out. I can't, because I can argue for about 20 to 25 guys. I know we put out a quick hitters deal on the hitters, a quick hitters deal on the pitchers. You try to break that down and say, okay, here's the top 10% of guys and move them into that standouts list and list everybody else. You could have taken every standout off and thrown somebody else in there and argued for it. It was very impressive. Aaron, your first time in the building, what'd you think?
The physicality of those kids. I mean, I'm looking up to a kid who's 15 years old, maybe, the freshman kid. I'm like, good gosh. I saw some kids, baby face kids, and it's 89, 90 on the mound. It's like, good gosh. I mean, the physicality was the big thing that stood out, and how many of them there were.
Yeah, I'm going through some of the stats here, and again, people get caught up on the velocity, and that it's one of the first easiest stats to look at. But this is February. These guys are still ramping up. They're not there yet. They're indoors. Have to curtail some of their typical warm up. We try to give them as much time, as much space as we can. But you are indoors. You're throwing on a platform instead of a dirt mound. There's some different differentiation there. But I mean, we're sliding down. We're having to scroll a little bit before we start ducking under 85.
And everything was in the zone for the most part.
Yeah, that part was impressive.
We did not hit the TrackMan this year.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. We didn't have to. I don't think we had to reset TrackMan on either mound once.
No, I'm telling y'all don't understand how many times that happens.
We roll into the hitters, and again, the physicality, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tice, but Tyndall, Breeson, Pywanski. I want to say I'm saying it right. Breeson's been to several events. He's a 2029. He's homeschooled. This is a 2029. It's 101.5. Gavin Whitley, I think, I profiled him a little bit more as an arm, but it's 101.4 exit. He's going to get a chance to, but Kyler Gold has made some jumps. Zach Taylor was a super sophomore games guy that can flat out, he is extremely physical in the box. Nicholas Lacuna was at our Wilmington preseason or summer ID, showed well, didn't know a whole lot about him, kind of dove into it. He shows back up and continues to show physicality with the bat. So, again, we continue to just kind of scroll down here, and number of guys that are above 90 now versus 3 years ago. And the kids are more physical, but I think there's also a better understanding of how to generate. The metrics are more readily available to these guys, and so there's a little bit better idea of when I do this, the ball comes off the bat. When I do that, the ball doesn't come off the bat. And so now they're getting that feedback, whether it's from TrackMan or some other entity. This is creating more impact with the baseball. Do that more often. We'll go through any of these guys. Aaron, let's start with you. Is there anybody that kind of stood out to you that jumps off the mat? And I can pull them up and kind of talk about what they did.
That was my first time getting eyes on your catcher from South Central.
Yep.
And
Nice.
that was grown man stuff. I know it's a very controlled environment, but there's intent to do serious damage, and it wasn't just all yank. I mean, it's drive it up the middle off somebody's forehead kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's a unique athlete. I know he missed some time last year at South Central. He had a little bit of a hip issue, but he's healthy. He's moving. There's good bend in the hips. You see him sitting in position right here. He's low, even for a big guy. His hands work pretty well, and then that is really good. I mean, the ball just fires out. He's a little tight there. We backed him up on this one. It's accurate too. We'll see the shot from here from behind. Actually, we don't have the shot from behind on him, but that ability to kind of for him, what it's going to be. I mean, you look at him. There's still some babyish maturation that's in the face and in the body. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get more physical. He's going to get quicker. So he's definitely a name to watch as we kind of move into this next year. Big recruiting period for him going into the summer.
The other kid I couldn't keep my eyes off of was the Logan Granger. Am I saying that last name correct?
You are.
The 29 from Wilmington. It's 6'3" and 86 in February, and a banger out of the hand. I'm used to seeing those guys throw it and miss by 10 feet.
Right.
That was really good.
He came with us to junior future games, and I think he threw against Kansas. I'm not positive. I want to say it was Kansas, but whoever it was he threw against, their coaching staff, their prep baseball directors from that area came over to us and said, okay, we've seen enough. Go to the next guy. That's a dude. We're good. We're good. We've had enough of that one. And it wasn't just overpowering fastball. And the ball gets out of his hand pretty good for his age. It was the ability to manipulate changeup. It was spin in the zone. It was comfort on the mound. He showed the ability to control run game. He showed the ability to command the zone with 3 pitches, and you're seeing him do it here in this video. It was really impressive what he was able to do with those to kind of make that stuff happen. And then you look at him; he's athletic. You think the body's probably going to continue to mature and grow as he moves forward.
Yeah, that's a kid that you think of should be playing basketball.
Right.
There was just a bunch of those guys that were really, really good and really big, but half of them, had baby faces.
Yeah. I was mistaken. It was not Kansas. I'm looking at it now. He opened for us against Texas. We had a group of kids that never played together, and they're playing. The Texas team was all basically Dallas-Fort Worth. They all knew each other, and North Carolina set the tone with his outing right out of the chute, and the way we controlled Texas and we ended up being the number 2 seed out of pool play and playing really well in the playoffs until we just ran out of arms. But he was a table setter for us in terms of what he was able to do on the mound. So I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Zach, who kind of jumped out to you?
Oh, Cameron Massey. Like, I was sitting around, I was joking with the dudes from Pitt, and all of a sudden I hear, shit, pop! I was like, who the hell's pitching? Heck, he's pitching. And all of a sudden, it's the dang catcher throwing down to second.
Yep.
And he is throwing 1-9s without breaking a sweat. And it's like, oh, my God. And I was like, all right, maybe he's just a catch and throw guy. Now he got in the box, hit line drives everywhere. Got in the outfield, topped out at 93. I mean, my man, if we had spin rates for catchers, my man is the highest spin rate there. Like, it is pretty much on the money. Like, just rockets out of the hand.
Those first 2 throws right here, watch these balls just carry. That's easy.
So, as I said, I never heard of them. I don't really stop for catchers, not gonna lie. I'm not a catcher fan. I couldn't catch, scared of the ball. Like, catcher's good for y'all. That ain't for me. But, like, my man made me stop what I was doing just to focus on watching him throw because it was a pleasure to watch him throw. He
was a guy, and I'm going to put the video up what he was this summer, and we'll kind of compare the swing a little bit because I have not had a chance to do this. But the catch and throw stuff was there this summer. There were some things you really liked about what he was doing, the defensive nature of what he was doing. But this part of the game, you can see that, and we go back to it, you can see his hands. There's a little still for me. He's gliding onto the front side just a little bit. It's a little bit more rotational. And a lot of it's not mechanical. It's just with what he's doing and who he is, it's a strength-based thing. Yeah. Now let's flash forward to what we saw the other day. There's a little bit more movement in the hand, but look at the difference in the bat speed.
Yeah.
Look how the bat's now getting through, and it translated. His exit velocity, his average exit velocity, the way the ball was coming off the bat, the way the ball's carrying. You got strength to both gaps here. This is what happens in an off season. From August to February at this age, you just get some sleep, eat right, get in the weight room, just do some training, but a lot of it probably is just eat, sleep, and growth. And you're seeing, an athletic dude. Now he's stronger and he's quicker, and it translates pretty quickly. So I think if the bat carries, he has a chance to do this too, because he moved around okay. He's a catcher first, but you start talking about that ability, and Kyle, you can talk to this. What was on your roster at Asheville the last couple of years? 34.
It would kind of fluctuate once kind of red shirts and injuries kind of settled down. It was about 34.
And so, but you're going to carry 3 catchers, but the only one's going to play, right? If they want in the lineup, they got to be able to do something else. It was pretty impressive. Some of the other guys that were there, Capoletti, was a senior right-handed pitcher. I'm going to pull him up because I felt like he was coming off some downtime, but I felt like he's kind of primed. and putting himself back in position to be a guy that has a chance to make a late jump here in the recruiting cycle. The ball's got ride through the zone. There's life to it. The bigger thing for me is the body frame and the build. It's long, it's lean. Let's see what he listed at 6'2", 193. So he's got a chance to add some strength, add some weight. And I think that instantly translates to what the velocity is. Statistically, he's up to 89.2. The breaking ball spinning above 2,500. So there's some things to like there. We'll kind of just go through this real quick. I thought Lane Collier has made some jumps as a corner infielder with some strength in the barrel. The body is slimmed down a little bit, and he's moving much, much better. You talked about Granger. Rafe Greer is a left-handed pitcher out of Leesville. There's looseness in that body. There's long limbs. The bat, I think, will come later. Just long arms is going to be struggling. Not struggling. It's going to take a little bit more time. If you guys see a name as I'm scrolling, feel free to jump in.
Chase White. I ain't sure we got to him yet.
There you go. Chase White. Let's go to
Chase White.
Chase, I'm gonna get the profile pictures figured out. We had a technical lapse, so that's Chase from about probably 9 years ago. Not really, but that's a while back. Actually, it's from 23, so I got it right there 3 years ago.
It might have been the best catching class of people we've ever had in an event. All four of these dudes are catchers too. Chase, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm gonna talk about you on the mound a little bit. The ball just absolutely jumped out of his hand, and you can see it right here with him throwing down. I think he punched 90.6. He was stoked. I guess he was stuck at 89.9. His pops was telling him that it didn't count, but little tucked into the front side, hip whip and go. South Central's got some dudes, and he's gonna reap the rewards of playing with a pro prospect, because when he follows them in a game and the first ball is 90, them pro guys are just gonna stay just for fun because that's what we do. And he's going to be able to get his name out a whole lot faster than some people just because of what he's got on his roster.
Yeah, and the name you're talking about obviously is Isaiah White. Is it White?
James.
Isaiah James. That's it. It's Chase White. So, and Isaiah's he's gonna bring a throng of area guys and national guys. They're gonna try to make a decision on where exactly he needs to go in the draft. But it's not just I think one of the things South Central has going for them is they may have a chance to put Chase in the 3-hole or further. They may have a chance to, and he's not going to have to, sit in there and catch a ton, because you've got Tice Thompson there too. So the ability to split the duties up, the ability to kind of keep guys fresh, I think lends itself to, these guys being in really, really good positions as they start to try to make that run to May. So I know we mentioned Luke Tyndall. I think it's Tyndall as well.
Yeah, he can whip that barrel, baby. Got some barrel whip for days.
25, 26. Got to find that video. Here he is on the bump. The videos are posted. I don't even think we've sent the letter out saying the videos are ready, but the videos are up on the site. The letter's coming. And we've got to make sure it is.
I think exit view of 103 too.
Was it? Yeah. So I'll check on that video, make sure it's up, because obviously these just got posted today, so I haven't had a chance to go through them all. But it's athletic. He's a good mover. We can show him hitting from last year, because it was fairly impressive last year as well. A little better weather last year. It was 70 degrees.
He still got snow on the ground in Greenville. It's crazy.
It was crazy when going through there. This is him last year.
Oh yeah.
And you can see, he's gotten stronger. There's a little bit more barrel feel, but he's manipulating the barrel a lot better this year. You can see what the body's done just in those 2 years here. And tracking and being direct to the ball. So he's a name to follow. I was impressed with him. Just, top to bottom, really, really good. And, we leave Greenville. We get on the road. We're heading to Maiden. So, my job, I left Greenville. I think I got in my car at 11, right at it. So I pulled into my house at 3. I got to bed at 4:45 because I have to get some things uploaded. I have to get some things on chargers, and I got to get the iPads and things all set because, people registering last minute or whatever. And then I was up at 6:50 to get to Maiden. Zach, what was your day? Somewhat similar?
Yeah, mine's about crashed the car. Other than that, we're good. Other than that, Hickory still has ice. In case you guys haven't been to Hickory, I took a curb, I found the ice. I ended up on the other side of the road. I ended up going almost straight on with the car. I still don't know where this blue Civic went, if it went left or right or under or over. I got no idea. I just closed my eyes, and I made it. Listen, just be careful if you're driving in Hickory. I got to the hotel about 2:30. I woke up great, got some breakfast. I was happy. Man, I got there. I was scared for my life. I called my dad, told him I used up one of my 9 lives. Woo! I was amped up, ready to go. I was actually working early. If y'all know me, I'm a slow starter at PBR. It takes me a while to get going. I was ready to go. I was moving stuff. I was happy. I could not stop moving.
Well, you had some energy when you walked in. I hear the whole story. Apparently, it was adrenaline. So,
yeah.
But we get in there and instantly we start the event and we start seeing dudes on the bump, and it makes the morning go so much better. Again, this is our 3rd or 4th year at Athletes Lab. Very unique situation where they've got some lanes for pitching, plenty of room for us to go double barrel, and then we rotate into like an indoor warehouse where we can do ground balls. We can split them up, let the ball fly a little bit off the bat. And then on better weather days, we can go outside. And they've got a big turf field out there. So I'm going to start presenting just the roster for that one. And Kyle, this was your first kind of big event. How did it differ, if at all, from some of the scout days and things like that you've been to here in the last 6 to 7 months?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I noticed was the depth of talent. The top end talent was pretty comparable, but just this event from top to bottom was just loaded with guys all the way through. So that was really, really impressive to see from this part of the state.
And we rolled into the bullpens. We saw 2 committed guys fairly early. Colt Briggs, a future games guy with us last year that's long and lean, and the ball kind of gets out pretty easy. John Engel, left-hander committed to Yale, extremely polished bullpen. A mix that's going to allow him to get on the mound and compete early for innings when he gets there. Zach, any names that jumped out to you as we start rolling through some of the bullpens and even into the hitters?
Yeah, I'm going to do both of these. I'm going to head out because I got to go teach because somebody's making me work all weekend. I don't know who that is, looking straight across the screen at him. But Zach Wester, I was a pitcher and I kind of grew up in the whippy, a little funky era of life. And, bro, you were throwing some absolute sinking 3/4 balls that, nobody wants to hit. If I was outside and I had a bat, I would have been sad, because you were going to tear my hands up. Breaking ball spun really well. He was in the zone, and it's just a lot of funk. And funk gets outs, and so does sinking, and so do breaking balls. And there was just a lot to like. I think it was up to 88. I'm gonna give you 88. I think it was 87 something, but I'll give you the 88. Breaking ball spun over 2,500. Just was a pretty impressive outing.
Who was your second guy?
Oh, Helmsy. He wasn't a pitcher. It was a hitter.
Yeah.
Oh, G Helms. My man was swinging the boomstick. He finally got to 100. He was really excited. And everything he's done is kind of cleaned up well. The body's kind of cleaned up. Watching him kind of warm up and throw. He had his own plan. My man is mature beyond his years. And it was really fun to watch him. As I said, I think he was super sophomore kid with us. And he was just, he had one of those swings where you're like, oh, that looks pretty cool. He was on rhythm. He was on balance. Then got up to 101. He was all excited. And then the outfield, he could still move, and the arm was clean out of the outfield.
Yeah, he's done a good job with his movement. I mean, he's moving much better than he was as a sophomore. He's giving himself some options here as he continues to get older, the ability to play in some different positions. The bat, there's a good ball to barrel feel. He's on the barrel constantly. There's good spin off the barrel. The ball has a chance to jump. Continue to get stronger. Is he going to be the doubles guy? Is he going to be the home run guy? I think there's still time to tell before all that happens. But it's just the consistency of the swing, the rhythm he has in his swing. I think that has a chance to play at a fairly high level for what I like. So good call out on Grant, as I'm struggling to kind of get to where I want to go. There we go.
You're all right. I'll see y'all soon.
Yep, we're going to let you go.
Everybody be safe. I'll see y'all in the next couple events.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Yep.
Kyle, we'll head over to you. I know you got a chance to see some of these guys. Who are some of the other guys that kind of jumped out to you as we're going through this list?
Yeah, one of the guys who was on the mound early that I was really impressed with was Caden Rudisil. I think he came out there, I think it was probably about 87, 88, if I remember correctly.
That on.
And, it's a true 3/4 arm slot. And I mean, and it is just that ball explodes the last 10 feet with some arm side run. Kind of like, Zach had just mentioned, like it's a tough to get in there, being a right-handed hitter, watching that. The arm was super fluid, and I think with him going to Catawba Valley, Coach McDougal's got a pretty good guy. Looks like he could be a horse. Changeup has very similar action to the fastball. I think it'll play well off of that. And the slider was tight. It was short. And he was around the zone with everything. So I think that's going to be another, junior college product in the state that's going to be really, really fun to watch.
For me, it's simple mechanics. He has a chance to repeat. It's 6'2", 195. He's got some maturity to the body. It's good lines. There's an easy mover in his hips, easy mover in his arm. And, he's throwing strikes. And we've talked about this in the past, but you take guys that throw strikes at this level and get outs, and they translate very quickly to the college level. The stuff's going to come. They're going to get stronger. They're going to move better. The strength conditioning guys do a good job. The nutrition people do a good job. Can you command your body and tell it where to go, and can you repeat that? And if you do, you get a chance to have success early. When guys have success early, they buy in more. So, I think you're dead on. He's a guy that we're going to hear more about in 2 years as we're tracking these junior college guys. I think you had a hitter was your other guy that you wanted to profile. It's a name that's been intriguing to me for a couple of years.
Yeah. So I actually had two. We'll go to Bo West first. Left-handed bat. It's loose, it's easy, and the loud contact he was getting from a very effortless swing. I mean, it was super consistent. I think his top exit velocity was only a mile or two down from his average. So it's super consistent. 93.7 to 98.
Pretty good.
He was a guy that in his 2 rounds of 8, there wasn't very many that I saw that were not well struck. So I think he's a guy that's athletic enough too that you can kind of place him wherever you want, which, as going into college is a huge trait, being able to kind of play where you're needed. And as if you hit, you're going to play. So that was one I was really impressed with.
He's an intriguing follow just because he was at Tuscola. So I got a chance to see him when Tuscola was making their run and played East Rowan a couple times in the 3A Western Finals 2 years ago. And obviously playing with Amos Rich, I checked in on Amos a couple times last year, and he was a guy that continues to, and a lot of it's the body. I mean, we just look at the profile here. I mean, it's a thin waist, it's a high waist, it's athletic build. You can dream on what this may be because there's athleticism and strength already. He's left-handed. I mean, he's checking a lot of boxes, and I think he's going to be a guy to kind of follow. He's an interesting follow for us because at Rayburn Gap, it's right there. Maybe you've been there. I have not, but it's in Georgia.
It's
on the border of Georgia.
5
and other
minutes
players
across.
live in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super close, and I actually think at one point I think they competed in the NC Independent. I don't know if that's still the case, but
it's a North Carolina. They're in the North Carolina high school playoff system for the NCISSA, the independent schools, but they're in Georgia. It doesn't make any sense at all, but that's par for the course for that system. So what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. So who is your other player?
The second one was Will Ray. That was he kind of walked up for his round, and I was looking straight up at him. I think he's listed at 6'6", and he's a guy that if he starts to he develops, he fills out, it's going to be something pretty fun to watch. The barrel got to the ball. He had some really long levers, as you can see, and with those long levers, I was impressed with him getting to it and extending through the ball. Was hitting a lot of hard balls to all parts of the field. So just, the pure size alone in the frame gives you a lot to be excited about there. and just to see how he truly develops as he continues to mature.
There were times when he was hitting, I was on the other side of the facility watching the other group, and the sound off his bat
It's different.
was, yeah. And, you look at the metrics, his metrics were good, but 94.7, 88 average. Those are going to get better. When we talk about hitters that are this size, very, very few guys this size are ready to hit as they get through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Their bodies are growing, they're changing, how he's going to rotate, how he's going to accelerate, all of that stuff changes. And them trying to figure out where their body's at and where it's going is very difficult because of the length. But he's already got some of that feel. And so it's only going to get better the more he works. But you can see how long his arms are, how long his legs are. That's a lot of things to kind of piece together and then find the barrel on. So, he's one of those guys I think is going to be a very, very intriguing follow as he continues to get older. So,
absolutely.
You were dead on with a couple of the names I had on my list. Yates Tony, super sophomore games guy, I thought was impressive. James Price, Dylan Polling's going to go for Tech. That name may be a name that kind of jumps out to some people here after a year or so at Guilford Tech because he's starting to piece together. He's a little bit like what Will Ray was when he was younger. I'll pull a video on him real quick, but you can see, way back here in 24, that guy there, we actually put a pretty good number on in terms of our ranking and our grade. And then you start to see this guy, the 24, look like Will Ray. And now you see it's a little bit more direct. There's a little bit more bat speed. It's a little bit more physicality. But this is what they have a chance to be. But these long guys, it can take them a little bit to kind of figure out where their bodies are because they're growing so fast and so much. You look at, 104.1, the 88 is the average. I think that's going to continue to pull closer because the arms are still long. He's still trying to figure some things out. But, he's a 7-1 runner. He's a sub-4, 30 and with 104. That's, you start just metrics wise. He's a guy that is going to be on some draft follow lists in the next couple of years if he continues to show barrel feel. Elijah Martin was a dual guy. Gunnar Johnson, super sophomore games. We talked about Engel. Jet Gibbs, brother, went with us to senior future games a few years ago. Is now at Maryland. Jet's at Metrolina Christian, and he may be called on to handle some of these guys. That's 20. Oh, Jet's been a couple things here. So he went out of state on us, but here he is with us. It's physical. He's a little bit different build than his brother. I love the bat positioning. I love how it gets stable right there. You see a lot of guys with that tilt. They start to waggle that bat and they get out of control. But the stability he has through his launch, through his load allows his launch to be a little bit more direct. So he'll be an intriguing follow. Parker Philippex, a future games guy. I love Parker, left-handed hitter. I think he's a guy that's good in games, but is good at workouts, but it's better in games. Have you seen him a lot, Kyle?
Yeah, just from some of the events I've been to and just having seen, TC and kind of what they've built, he's just very fundamentally sound. Like, everything looks the part. And normally, like you said, the guys that maybe don't show quite as well, you can tell that this translates to games. And it's, it'll be very fun to watch him. I
got Josh Bean. That was the other one I wanted to do. 6'7". So my daughter got a kick out of that because he's 6'7". 181. It's 84 right now. He's a 2027, but that number is going to climb, and I think the spin numbers are going to be better. But when you watch me, it's 6'7", and that's a pretty good mover. That's a lot of body he's having to go down the hill, and that's pretty good.
Yes.
And he commanded the baseball for the most part. He was around the zone. You start talking about big dudes, and there is typically a cutoff. There's not a whole lot of big leaguers that have been above 6'6". You have your outliers. Randy Johnson's a 6'10". You have a few of those guys, but it's hard to get that body moving in that same direction at this size. For him to have already kind of conquered that part, he'll be an interesting follow to see, if that velocity jumps, how quickly some schools start to say, okay, what's the ceiling going to be, and how early do we want to get on it? So.
Yeah, and just with how clean he is too, I can see that velocity coming pretty easily.
Change classes. Guys, you guys did a great job your first events. Any closing thoughts on just the talent we saw just in those bigger events and versus, some of the smaller events you guys have worked in the past? And what are we looking forward to this weekend?
Man, like I said, I was excited about how good these kids are. The difference from what I remember was the big kids, they weren't this good. And the young kids that maybe haven't developed physically yet, they're in there competing their tail off. So when the size and strength comes, I mean, they're going to take jumps, huge jumps. So, just being around good players is going to make you better. And I was shocked. Dude, I mean, I don't know what the final number was, but when I looked to my left, it looked like 180 kids over there.
And we were right at 80. Yeah. And we still got out of the building at 11. So, people always say, well, you got to have room for one more. You got to have room for if we do that game, we would end up at 120. We would still be in there. So
when you sent me the email about the pro case, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't planning on going until I clicked the roster thing. Honey, what do we got going on this weekend?
Yeah.
And she was like,
I'll get up with you when we get done with this. I'll get up with you because we got to figure out travel and all that stuff. So
yeah,
Kyle, your thoughts on
kind of what Aaron mentioned, just the size of guys. It's really impressive to see that how big some of these guys are getting at what the ages are. And one of the things that I've truly been impressed with is how polished some of these guys are at a young age. Growing up, and I just feel like guys never used to be that fundamentally sound that early. It almost took them till their junior and senior years, and now you're seeing these freshmen and sophomores coming in, and they're really close to being a completed product almost, with some room to grow physically, and it's been really fun to kind of see that.
Well, you guys did a great job. Obviously, we got more work to do this weekend. I'm excited about the rosters. We're going to see 3 great events plus the scout day on the Friday. We're in the scout day on Wednesday. We were at a scout day on Monday with Kingsman Academy. So we've got more and more information. All this information is going to get to the website, www.prepbaseball.com. Go to North Carolina and go to the news tab. You'll see that. Go to the events tab. You'll be able to follow all the action, see all the numbers these guys have posted. So we're going to continue to try to get back to these podcasts at least once a week, if not a little bit more. So look next week for recaps on the pro case, the preseason All-State Central, and the preseason All-State South. For Aaron Reimer, Kyle Kadlov, Zach Borowski, I'm Brandon Hall. We'll see you at the field.